I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house? It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one. 3 of the gerbils were mine, and 2 had been my fault.
Oh. Derpy. Derpy Jr., Burpy, Chirpy, Furpy, Lurpy, Zerpy, Zoe, Coco, Tucker, Charlie, Daisy, Lucy. Shadow, Christopher, Bob, Oliver, Scatsy? Is it a frog? Bailey.
Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery.
Molly Finch. The first one to die was Odin. She must have been second. So what, she was only 10? Molly Finch. Calvin Finch, she was 11. Sven. Edie. Walter. Well, Walter was living underground. And Barbara Finch. Was doing, didn't they say she was 16? No. 16, I think. I'm not sure.
I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away.
That is...
She could see it poking out of the water at low tide. Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night. Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better.
Gregory. Sam. Gus.
She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us. We never found Milton's body, so my mom insisted we were putting up a monument, not a tombstone.
1992. Wow. 1988. Sanjay.
There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now.
Sanjay.
Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself. But looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant. I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common.
Who knows?
They were both pretty intense.
Who, your grandpa?
Sam spent his life shooting photos, but Mom said he got nervous being in front of the camera. I guess we're all afraid of something.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Hmm?
That's
Am I
her
gonna-
mom.
Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it?
What kind of picture do we want to take?
I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are.
You're right, Dad. It's starting to clear up. Still freezing, though. Aw.
So Dad
Definitely
finished
should not have
peeing?
drunk all that coffee.
He's still peeing.
Nothing quite like being outside.
Hold still while I take...
Hey!
That's a keeper.
I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad. Dad!
Good eyes, Dawn.
Oh, that's an ugly photo.
Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Dad, I...
Just breathe. Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything. Great shot, Dawn!
Oh,
I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that, okay?
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
so...
normal, Dawn. Just
that's
focus on the
normal.
camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
Well,
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
well. What a terrible history of death, man. I've forgotten all about how sad it was. Imagine that. Oh. No, thank you. Oh, wow. We're not going in here just yet. No, no, no! Phew. Okay, good. I'm gonna look around.
Instead of hiding from death, Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it.
Okay, so Kay was Sam's wife. So Dawn's parents. So this is Edith's grandpa, which she said before going into this room, which I forgot.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
Finch control. Okay, so this was Dawn's brother.
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it. I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Trying to figure out how to. Oh, there we go.
Send over, Gregory. It's time to. Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
I wonder what he saw. What his world was like.
About that, Gregory?
I know you did everything you could. Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
I don't want Gregory to hear this.
Oh,
I wish he could have told us about the world he saw.
stupid ass frog, man. All these deaths have been my fault, man.
There's so much I don't understand about Gregory.
Now he's
About
turned
everything.
to a bloody frog.
But I know what happened wasn't your fault. I'm sure he's happy. And he'd want you to be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
Jeez. So Gregory drowned. Pac-Man.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet
A poem for Gus.
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard. My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we don't need a stepmom were the words that I
I now
remember.
pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined and as a sign held up his middle finger.
So he was a
Wind picked
teenager?
up and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent. The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder." I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea, and foam. But I didn't. Until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
What in the world just happened? So he just, what? The storm, some sort of object like a tent, hit him. And that's sealed shut.
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get. Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died.
Computers back then, wow.
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
Sanjay. Unfortunately, he passed too. What do you call a floppy disk? I used to love putting a floppy disk inside of a computer. It was cool. Darn. Oh. Didn't realize that was there. Emergency evacuation plan. House rules. No playing outside without permission. No answering door for strangers. No messes after dark. All chores before dark. Respect others. They even had their own lights. Okay, back up we go.
My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English.
Right.
Lewis was born a year later.
So Lewis was the first one to be born. Front of the house.
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back.
Got any
And to see
lavender?
kids in the house again. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that.
Where'd they get the money?
And for a while, things were good. Almost normal. But it didn't last.
Oh, the curse. Myth. History. Relief if its end in disaster. Are you kidding? So I'm guessing that's how he passed. What is that sound? Oh, there we go.
The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
Oh. I'll go up there later. Just want to quickly look around. Whoa. This is nice. Door.
think Edie was happy to finally have another painter in the family.
Milton. So Milton's the one that went missing.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush. I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
Well,
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors.
oh my lord, I thought that was a growler. Oh, Jesus.
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
Huh? What's this supposed to mean?
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself.
But what did Milton find?
After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
Lewis. It's a bloody boat.
Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Marijuana. Don't touch marijuana, okay, kids? What am I doing? Oh, Chippy. Yoga ball. Edith Finch.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery. but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander. I asked him to describe it.
Two things at the same time, man.
He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis, until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on. In Lewisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen. The queen was on her own quest for
sinister serpents.
sinister serpents.
Oh, jeez.
He followed the sound of her
Silver harp.
silver harp.
Love harps.
His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
This is already making me sad. Because I know, how it ends.
He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt. I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. including the wise Calico who'd insisted on advising him.
Molly. I had never noticed that before. Is there any more like that?
His queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head.
Nice.
And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
So sad.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
Sad, man. Makes me sad.
He was so proud of being Indian. I think for him, it was a way to be something other than just a Finch.
Wasn't happy with his life.
Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Wonderland Turbo. It's weird. I mean, sometimes you think your mind is what keeps you sane, and nope. Sometimes it turns against you.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left.
Finch. To teach and to learn.
My mom ended up leaving everything behind.
As I can see.
What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now was to tell you about that last night.
Your room, Edith. Pretty. Right-handed.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
the power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories! I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
History of the Finches by Edie.
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. For a while, I wondered. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the band came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it. But she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Oh, this makes me sad. Oh, well. So Shirley. She must have died giving birth to him. Oh, I forgot how sad it was. It wasn't scary, it was sad. Oh, my bad. It really, really just pulls you in, the stories. What makes it sadder, it's just one family. Jeez. Hookah. I still can't get over Milton, how he disappeared. Thanks, Joanne. Trophy earned. Well, like I said, I already played this before. Why am I just receiving that trophy? I'm definitely going to have to check the trophies I did receive and the trophies like I received playing it now, and obviously the trophies I received the first time I played it, which was around last year. Dreadful stories, ugh. Dreadful stories. But it got me hooked, like it really does. Ant farm, oh, the amount of ant farms that I've had is just crazy. And they would never last long. Either the ants escaped, or another group of ants would kill the ants that were in there. Roller skates. Definitely want to get myself a pair of those for roller skates. I forget what they're called. There's a specific name. All the kid photos. Okay, so the trophies I received last year were Everything Ends, so finish all stories, and Clear the Table, where you had to knock off the balls off the pool table in the comic book scene. The ones I achieved today was Gregory, so knock all the letters of Gregory's name in the bathtub, and thanks Joanne, you receive that once Joanne's name goes past in the credits. And the ones I didn't receive is Loop-de-Loop-de-Loop, so play Calvin's story again for that. Let him finish, so you have to let the drunken sailor finish his song before eating him. Great Owl, so catch 2 rabbits with only 2 swoops. All roads, so take both paths to the house. A closer look, all peepholes and telescopes. You have to look into them long enough to hear Edith's commentary to receive that one, which I didn't even know you could do that, look through the peepholes. But such a compelling story and very sad indeed. I mean, why wouldn't it be? It's a video game about death, but it's also unique and captivating, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And sorry for the crappy mic. I was using a PS4 headphones, so the mic on there is pretty bad. But with that being said, I bid you farewell and ta-ta for now.